Hey, I know it's pretty late here on the West Coast or on the East Coast, early for people on the West Coast, but yep, I'm gonna talk about wrestling, how it's changed over years and fun like that. When I was a little kid, wrestling was mostly a Saturday afternoon thing. I'd finish watching cartoons, and being that we're in this region that we are, you'll excuse her, she's gonna be milling about the whole video. But yeah, being where we are in Virginia, it was Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, Jim Crockett Promotions. So it was like Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, Wahoo McDaniel, the Blackjacks. Really sorry to hear about Bray Wyatt. Speaking of that, because Blackjack Mulligan is his grandfather. Yeah, it's like there's a lot of actual wrestling going on. Like, there'd be talk in between. They'd do the promos between matches or put the promos on before a match and the just and stuff like that. There was actually more wrestling back in the day than there is like now. Sorry about that. She just got very playful. But yeah, when I was a little kid, which of course be the 70s, because let's be real, like every Saturday it was like um Fat Albert and then wrestling. As much as I hate to admit it, it was Fat Albert. Got a take on that, but this about wrestling. This isn't about Bill Cosby. Um, but yeah, um, there's gonna be a lot of ums. It's like 3 in the morning, so not particularly on top of my game at the moment. But yeah, like 70s wrestling is like really good. I can actually get on YouTube. You can look up matches like Jim Crockett Promotions, Dusty Rhodes. Like it's really good. Like it was very well thought out. I mean, like the feuds made more sense, and I watched that till I was about 13 or so, I think. And that was around the time Hulk Hogan started becoming popular, so my dad wanted me to watch him instead because he was a better role model than, say, Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, Magnum TA, or so he thought. Knowing what we know now, Hogan is not a very good role model, and he's like the biggest backstage politician in the history of wrestling, possibly. But yeah, like WWE at that point was just so cartoony. The modern stuff is kind of cartoony. It's kind of cartoony because I can't even sit through an entire episode of Raw now. But yeah, like Hogan, Saturday Night's Main Event, the beginning of pay per view. Um, but one of the big things in the '80s was my dad wasn't gonna pay for a pay-per-view. There's just no way he was gonna pay for a pay-per-view. So the '80s and '90s, they were doing like 4 pay-per-views a year. It wasn't like they're doing a pay-per-view every month now. I mean, you get like 12 pay-per-views a year now. And some of those actually WCW titles from where Vince bought WCW. But yeah, you get like the pay-per-views, and my dad was not gonna pay for it. Like, the only time I ever saw HBO was when we had free preview weekends. That's probably for another video, but yeah, if you didn't wanna get the pay-per-view, which I think was 1999, you could just wait, like, 2 months, and you could go Blockbuster and rent the whole thing and watch it whenever you wanted to, over the 3-day periods that you had it, so you could probably watch it if you weren't doing anything, you could theoretically watch it, 16 times? There's probably a bigger number than that, but I'm guessing, like, sleep, eating, probably don't wanna watch wrestling while you're eating. I don't generally tend to, but I have been known to, like, when our Ring of Honor was on, like, noon on WSET because they were owned by the same company, I would tend to eat and watch wrestling, but I don't really think it's very conducive to eating too. But yeah, you could watch Coliseum Home Video. I mean, Vince was gonna get your money, and he still is. I mean, like those. We'll get into this in a minute. But yeah, like the '80s and '90s, like WCW decided to copy WWE, and it just didn't work. Like Racknaman, look it up. I swear it's on YouTube. It's like the worst Spider-Man impression ever, and Marvel actually did send WCW a cease and desist letter. Because generally they're just going to send you a letter first because it's just cheaper to do it that way, and it beats going to court. So generally they were going to send a cease and desist letter first. The Ding Dongs, look that one up. Watch it once. Like one of the guys is like they're wearing bells around their wrist. Apparently, nobody in the front office thought, "Hey, these are bells on like a cheap string. They're not," and they snap like midway through the match, and like everybody's rolling around the ring on the bells, and it adds a level of difficulty. I mean, I just don't see why it was thought that wrestling needed to be made more appealing to kids, so let's throw in these characters like the Ding Dongs, and JR was not very happy about it. If you watch it, he's actually voicing his displeasure about as much as he can without saying he really hates the idea. And the Shockmaster. I'm sure most everybody's seen that one. If you haven't, Shockmaster debut. I wouldn't suggest watching a match because I don't think that was some of Fred Altman's best work as the Shockmaster. I literally think it was just a way for him to continue working. John Tenton, WCW, different story. He was the Shark. Because originally I think they were supposed to have him be Avalanche, but Vince was like, no, no, that's too close to Earthquake. No, no, you can't. Um, but yeah, for the most WCW was grabbing like WWF workers and like retreads and stuff like that all throughout the '90s, and it just started getting very cartoony. Because what wound up happening was Ted Turner wanted his own wrestling promotion, and Jim Crockett wanted to get out of business. Stop. Sorry, she wants to wrestle. No, don't bite daddy. All right, good for you. Yeah, like, Ted Turner wanted to get into wrestling, so he bought Jim Crockett Promotions because Jim Crockett, who ironically on the baseball team in Salem, the Redbirds, he's like one of the owners. It was like Conway Twitty, Jim Crockett, Richard Stebbins from the Oak Ridge Boys. I think Loretta Lynn might have owned a piece of it. Conway Twitty, like they did actually own part of the baseball team. There were like a lot of part owners to it, and it was somewhat amazing. And getting way off subject, Conway Twitty actually was a baseball player. As Harold Lloyd Jenkins, not as Conway Twitty. He named himself after two towns in Arkansas. Sorry, she's a little hyper at times. She didn't get out much tonight. So, but yeah, WCW and WWF were just like horrible at that point. I think I stopped watching wrestling, and then WCW signed Hogan because Vince thought he was paying a little too much for him, and whatever he's gotten paid over the years is just paying too much for him. And yeah, about 96 or so, um, Dad taped part of Bash's beach match. I think it was a replay on Saturday night. So he taped it and he's like, Hogan's gone heel. I'm like, what? It's like, yeah, Hogan's gone heel with Nash and Hall. With Razor Ramon and Diesel, I think is the way Dad put it. He never could get over the fact that they weren't like still named the same characters. Like he still called Bob Holly Sparky Plug. So I don't think he ever really got over characters being renamed. Oh, and Kane was Dr. Isaac Yankem. Turned out he was right on that one. Um, but yeah, wrestling in the '90s was just bad until the Attitude Era started. I mean, once Stone Cold won King of the Ring and the Attitude Era officially started, like wrestling started getting better. I mean, Stone Cold was basically Hulk Hogan taken to the next level and in a different direction. The Rock. I mean, we get The Rock about that same point in time. He's in the Nation, and finally they realize they got a better singles match wrestler. And sorry, I'm all over the place again. Like it's 3 in the morning and somebody wants to fight. She's not spoiled or anything. But yeah, fine. Um, yeah, 90s wrestling. WCW got better after NWO, but the big problem I had with it, and everybody's like, well, it was supposed to be a takeover. Of course they're gonna grade everybody. I'm like, no. No, I mean the faction was just too big. It was like 48 at one point in time. And they start splitting it off, which doesn't actually make anything better. I mean, when NWO started out, and it was Hogan, Nash, and Hall, maybe like one other person, like I think they brought Macho Man in originally. You got a good stable right there, but then when you start bringing in like Nash's friends and Hall's friends and Hogan's friends, and, like new talent you think will put over, it just started getting too big. I think that's one of the reasons Degeneration X took off and NWO kind of just plateaued and started going downhill. Yeah, like she's like this. I do apologize. But yeah, like the near 2000s come in. Of course, WCW under Vince Russo. Everybody says he killed WCW, but he didn't really. He didn't help things. Obviously, he did not help things like one single bit. But he didn't kill off WCW like everybody's like Bischoff and no, 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 no. WCW was way overpaying the wrestlers, like way overpaying the wrestlers. Like they started guaranteeing contracts, and you just can't do that in wrestling. I think AEW is kind of taking a better approach to it with what they're doing in the tier system. But then Vince winds up buying WCW. I was watching live that night. I remember being shocked because Raw's on both USA and TNT. Yeah, so then Vince, about that point in time, I had started getting into ECW because it was on Spike at that moment, I think. Yeah, no, it was still the Nashville Network. It's still Nashville Network, and it became Spike when they got the WWE contract. Yeah, yeah, it was. But yeah, I'd watch that, and I had no idea what was going on, but it was a much better brand of wrestling. Of course, that went under, and then I think USA outbid Paramount for WWE, so Spike wound up with TNA, which was Jeff Jarrett, which actually, when it first started, it was actually light years ahead of what WWE was doing because like The Rock was getting ready to leave, Stone Cold was like at the beginning of the end. The Undertaker had stagnated a little, the whole Undertaker and Kane thing, and just going screw it. And yeah, like wrestling had gotten bad again, and then all of a sudden like John Cena comes along. TNA starts signing all these WWE rejects, and I'm like, didn't y'all learn anything from WCW? Like literally, Jarrett was in WCW when they're signing all these WWE rejects. His dad's a promoter. You figure he would have done better with this, but no, no, he doesn't. And here we are, and in WWE, it gets like John Cena, Brian Daniels, and like all the other stars, and Bray Wyatt, R.I.P. Remember watching his dad when he was a horseman, and no, that's right. His dad was Mike Rotunda. His mom was the Wyndham. Yeah, his dad was IRS, and his uncle Barry was a horseman. Yeah, his dad's Mike Rotunda. Again, it's 3 in the morning. I know these things, but I'm just yeah, his dad was like IRS and Vincent K. Wall Street and Captain Mike Rotunda. That was a fun little thing, and they just threw a couple wrestlers in with him. Yeah, but wrestling's gotten a little better. AEW is kind of what WCW should have been the whole time. It's just like a better promotion that's better thought out, it's better booked. WWE, I've watched most of their movies, and WWE, the Jetsons, don't watch it. It's just bad. Scooby Doo WWE Mystery, not good. Um, what was it? Camp WWE is hilarious, though. If you get a chance, watch that show. But I don't recommend any like their animated movies. Like I've seen bits and pieces of Surf's Up 2, which somehow has like the Undertaker as a penguin and Mr. McMahon is some type of other bird. It's just weird. Don't watch it. It's a bad movie. I will go on record as saying that, but yeah. Yeah, that's all I gotta say for now on that. I'll probably do TV at some point. Thanks for watching for this song. No, I didn't do tend to get off topic a tiny bit from time to time, but generally I will find my way back to where I was going. And yeah, again, we're just losing too many wrestlers this week. I mean, we've already lost like uh, way too many. And the quality of wrestling is not getting much better. I mean, just this year alone, we've lost like Lanny Poffo. Sergeant Slaughter just recently turned, like to say 75. It's really bad. I'm like friends with his daughter on Facebook, and her dad just had a birthday. I think it's 75. It could be 72. Again, 3 in the morning. My brain's kind of a little scrambled. But yeah, yeah, wrestling just isn't what it used to be. I mean, Ring of Honor was actually pretty good. Some people are like, "Oh, it's cheesy." I'm like, on the budget they had, it actually wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. I mean, I liked it. I mean, had Mandy Leon, how bad could it be? Okay, that's this rant. My guest star's busy chewing on something, so hope everybody has a good time and maybe this picked you up a little. I mean, like, honestly, I could probably go on talking about wrestling for hours and hours. Like, I could pull up specific matches from my memory banks and yeah, my coworkers are like, "Wow, you've got a good memory. Must be great." I'm like, "Not even close. Not even close." But yeah, hope everybody's doing good. Um, Stay safe and remember to wash your hands frequently. We think COVID's over, but let's just wash our hands frequently to be safe and keep everybody else from catching stuff that maybe we transmit, maybe we wouldn't. Again, just stay safe out there and hope everybody has a good night.